Hello, good evening and welcome to the Hot Seat. Joining us in the Hot Seat today is a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank with plenty of years of service. We're delighted to welcome on our show this evening Mr. W.A. Vijayawardena. Good evening, Mr. Vijayawardena.
Good evening, Faras.
And thank you for agreeing to be in the Hot Seat. When did you join the Central Bank?
I joined the Central Bank in 1973.
And you retired in?
Retired in 2009.
So that makes it about 38 years of service?
Yeah.
38 years?
Yes, a long service.
And included, of course, in this time would have been the bombing of the Central Bank?
Of course, yes. In fact, I have worked almost in all the departments in the Central Bank, Faras.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, the Central Bank services, every public debt, employees provident fund, rural credit, economic research, currency.
So you've done everything?
Everything, yes.
Where were you on the day that the bomb?
Of course, it was a very interesting story. I was the director rural credit, and my office was located just opposite the Central Bank building, in a building called Cargo Boat Development Building.
Right.
My office was on the 8th floor facing the Queen Street. And about 10:45 in the morning, Faras, we heard sounds like firecrackers. And we didn't pay any attention to that because lots of firecrackers take place in that area.
Right.
But of course, when I looked at the other side of my office, I found all my staff was looking through the glass, and they were watching what is happening downstairs. So I also
they were looking towards the Central Bank.
Yeah, towards the Central Bank, and I also joined them to find that the whole street was empty. There were dead bodies under the porch of the Central Bank. Some people were running. Right. And by the time we were watching it, I was watching it, the lorry which had carried the bomb was just reversing to make the final assault on the Central Bank building because there was a barrier, iron barrier that had been erected, and it wanted to break the barrier and go in. Because we actually didn't have that experience for us at that time. I'm going to tell you a good story to distinguish between the wisdom and intelligence.
Right.
And we never even had any idea of what kind of a risk we are facing, exposing ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
Then there was a mine employee in the department.
Right.
He had not even, I think, schooled up to 5th grade.
Right.
He was shouting at us from the behind, and actually he used some obscene words also.
Yeah.
And why are you doing that? They are going to blow up that building. Come back immediately. So like machines, all of us ran back.
Retreated.
Yeah, we had only about 10 seconds. We ducked ourselves on the tables. The bomb went off. The whole place from one end to the other end got devastated completely. Including
the building that you were in?
Yeah, in fact, had we remained there, we would have all, the entire department, about 48 employees, would have been completely dead.
So that part of the building where you were standing is also...
Yeah. I mean, what happened is the glass. In fact, since we were under the tables for us, because we saw later on that the glass particles had flown and they had hit the wall, creating about 1-inch holes inside the wall.
Oh my!
So had we remained, standing, they have gone through our bodies.
Indeed.
So because of that, the wisdom of that mine employee for us, none of us in our department, my department, the Department of Rural Credit, got injured. In other departments, people lost their eyes, some people died, injured forever, and all kinds of things. Because that is why I am telling you now, we have done university degrees, postgraduate degrees, and we consider ourselves as educated, intelligent people, but we didn't have the wisdom.
And where is that chap?
That chap had retired from the Central Bank now, and I don't know, he's still living and on and off meeting. But thanks to his timely warning that was given to us, because of his experience and wisdom, all of us saved our life. But of course, 1,200 people in the Central Bank got injured, 41 people died. About a dozen of people lost their eyesight permanently, and it was a pathetic situation.
Yes, I've met somebody who lost his eyesight. He was working
Dr. Zuhair?
I don't know, but he had two daughters whom their education got affected as a result of him being unable to work. And he took to making, he's blind, but he took to making little figures.
He was actually the cameraman.
I see.
He was the cameraman and one of the, I think, most creative people. I think he has gone to sculpture now.
That's right. And he's blind.
Blind, totally blind, but sculpting, yes.
And the effect it had on his family was absolutely devastating. Because those children had enormous difficulty in finishing their studies and so on. Let's move on to perhaps happier times. How many governors have you worked under?
I have actually worked under 7 governors.
Right.
Starting from H.E. Tenapod, Robert Tenapod. He was a former secretary to the Ministry of Finance, one of the finest people I have met. And of all the 7 governors, as far as I have to say, I had learned from them.
Right, so they're all individual personalities.
Individual personalities. They had their own plus points, minus points. Barring minus points, if I look at only the plus points, I can confess that I have been a beneficiary of learning from all these governors one aspect of life or another aspect or even the professional life.
I see. And what is there been a sort of an outstanding moment in your 38 years that you are fond to recall?
Okay, I think not only one, I think it was a series.
Okay.
First of all, when I was appointed to the Economic Research Department, I was in the Money and Banking Division, which handles the monetary policy of the country. I was able to introduce the broaden the money supply of Sri Lanka. They had the narrow money supply, and it was I who developed the equation system and the system to introduce the broad money, but they call now M2 in Sri Lanka. Then the introduction of the reserve money management for the purpose of monetary policy when I was in the Economic Department, that was there. Then the central bank loaned me to found the Credit Information Bureau of Sri Lanka in 1990, and I was the founding general manager who laid foundation for that and set it up. When I was in the currency department, then I was transferred to currency department. I was the one who introduced the currency machines, series machines.
Oh, I see.
And because up to that time, far as because I was an economist. Up to that time, we had the manual central bank cashiers who were counting currency bundles. And each day, the output of a manual worker was just 8 bundles. One bundle contains 1,000 currency notes. They were just counting 8 bundles. And there had been a peak of large amount of currency bundles waiting for counting.
I see.
And we had actually, all our vault was full. Commercial banks were complaining, and we had to speed up. So we introduced the CVCS machine, which actually automated the currency counting. Then I didn't have to have all this, because when I considered the cost of counting one currency bundle, even the central bank workers' salaries at that time, it cost us about one currency note 72 rupees.
Each note?
Each note.
Right.
Because the output is so low.
72 rupees,
72 rupees.
Not cents.
Not cents.
Oh,
so it was so high. Right. So when we introduced the counting machines, each counting machine counted about 400 to 500 bundles a day. So we had to employ only 2 cashiers to do that.
Right.
The rest of the cashiers we absorbed into the rest of the central bank, and they were doing very well, because so that is one important thing. Then in the rural credit department, I was the first one to introduce the microfinance project in Sri Lanka. Isuru project.
Right.
Small farmers and the landless credit project. Then after the bomb blast, all of a sudden Governor S. Javadana called me and say, okay, you go and take over the employees provident fund. So the superintendent had been employed, injured. Deputy superintendent had been injured. All the people had been injured. The entire
They had been injured.
They have been injured, and it was headless. And the database completely destroyed.
Oh, I see.
So we had to have the new location in Battaramulla. In the new location, we transferred whatever that was available for people, because one wing of the central bank had completely been devastated by fire. So another wing, there was some record. So I had to build up the record base.
We're going to take a short break and we'll come back to the hot seat in just a moment. Welcome back to the hot seat where we're joined today by Mr. W.A. Vijay Warden, a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank with 38 years of expertise, and to share his story here. Tell me, there was a story about the great Dr. N.M. Pereira, who I think caused a letter to be sent to the governor, something to do with recruitment.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Okay, now what happened was, not actually, it was not Dr. N.M. Pereira who had sent it, his private secretary, Mr. Senabit Secretary. He had sent a letter when Dr. N.M. Pereira became the finance minister. He had sent a letter to, because he had sent this letter to all other banks also. The letter had requested the central bank governor to submit the list of the people to be appointed to central bank. Then the governor H.C. Tennakoon, he was a fiercely independent man. He sent back a letter. In fact, it was not he got the director of establishment to send the letter. The letter conveyed the message, one message, in terms of section such and such of the Montreal Act, under which the central bank had been established. Recruitment to central bank, the power of recruitment to central bank is vested with the Montreal Board of the Central Bank of Sweden. Therefore, I see no reason why the list of recruits should be submitted to the Honorable Minister for his approval. Please bring this to the notice of the Honorable Minister. The matter was set then.
So, how possible is such a letter? How much would you think it would be impossible in doing, let's say, the Rajapaksa years?
It would have been a complete disaster for the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka
if he had sent such a
if it had been sent during that period.
And how independent is the central bank?
Central bank is a semi-independent institution. It actually is not independent for us, we call it autonomous.
Right.
It's a semi-autonomous institution in the sense that even though it is owned by the government of Sri Lanka and its capital has been provided by the government, the Minister of Finance cannot issue directives to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Right.
Montreal Act has prohibited the Minister from doing that, whereas in all other institutions he can send general and special directives, and it is the duty of the board of the directors to implement those directives. But in the case of central bank, there is no such thing. Then the Monetary Board of the Central Bank is appointed by the President of the Republic on the advice of the Minister of Finance. So they are, once they are appointed, they cannot be removed. Unlike in the case of other public corporations, you can remove a governor, you can remove a deputy governor, you can remove the board of, you can't do it with the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
And you can't do it with the Monetary Board?
Not only Monetary Board, your deputy governors cannot be removed.
Oh, I see.
Once they are appointed, of course they are appointed by, deputy governors are appointed by the Monetary Board with the concurrence, not with the approval, with the concurrence of the Minister of Finance.
Right.
Once they are appointed, there's a special procedure. If there is a serious lapse of duty or the irregularity or indiscipline, you have to follow a special procedure to remove it.
Right.
Same thing applies to the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So and also the central bank has an independent budget. Its budget is not subject to control by parliament.
Right.
And therefore the politicians cannot decide on the budget of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
I see.
So it is budget independent, it is policy independent, and its top management is independent. Therefore it is a semi-autonomous institution. Why I call it a semi-autonomous institution for us is, in a sovereign state, you can't have another sovereign institution.
I see.
The parliament can any time amend the Montreal Act and take the powers back to parliament.
But in spite of what you say, we continue to be treated to these allegations that President Rajapaksa and his governor, that they acted in concert and at the whim and almost fancy of the president at the time. How possible is that?
Well, of course, it all depends on the type of the political leadership as well as the type of the leadership in the central bank powers. If the politicians want to abuse power in this country or in any other country, there is no way for that nation to protect itself. Similarly, if the top management of the central bank wants to yield to the pressure coming from outside, again you can't protect the central bank of Sri Lanka. So it's actually a consort of type of a comfortable relationship between the two parties.
I see.
So in that sense, I have to say, because I have worked under 7 governors and many of the governors were fiercely independent people. For example, Mr. S. Jayawardena, he never ever allowed Chandrika Mandana to dictate to him. Even Mr. Sunil Mandis, he was also a very independent person. So therefore, it all depends on the personalities, the maturity of the people, experience of the people, how far you have become a part of the institution called central bank. So if it is there, there is no problem. But of course, if it is not there, then of course we have these issues.
Much has been said in many columns of newsprint and many hours of airtime on TV and radio has been expended, has been spent in the pursuit of what we call the truth in terms of the 30-year bond that was issued by the central bank sometime in February. On the face of it, is it a questionable transaction? Is there some merit in us calling for an investigation?
Exactly, because two reasons. One reason is there has been an immediate loss to the government of Sri Lanka.
Right.
When I say government of Sri Lanka, far as the citizens of Sri Lanka, like us, taxpayers, amounting to some 526 million rupees.
Right.
Now you might say 526 million rupees is nothing when compared to billions.
Yeah.
But of course, when it comes to the assets belonging to government of Sri Lanka, even 1 rupee matters.
Indeed.
1 rupee matters. Therefore, there is a reason for that.
Yeah.
Second one is it actually eroded the reputation of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
And that is even more important.
It's more important. Because it's more important in the sense because now far as you have this, say 5,000 rupee or 2,000 rupee note in your pocket, issued by Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Why are you holding on to those things? Because you trust the people who manage the central bank will protect the currency that you are holding, because that is your asset.
Yeah.
So when you lose that trust, virtually a central bank cannot operate. Because central bank has to build confidence in the financial institution, it has to build confidence in the people, it has to build confidence with the people outside Sri Lanka, the multilateral lending agencies like foreign government, because always a foreign investor or a foreign government will look for the central bank of the country when they want to have any dealing with that country. So if the central bank is viewed as an institution with shoddy transactions, that country has no future. So for example, Greece. Take for example Greece. It happened in the case of Greece because the Central Bank of Greece actually was publishing wrong economic data for many years.
Right. And it caught up with it.
So what has happened?
Tell me, you just carry on a little bit more about this bond. They advertised for 1 billion. They later took up just over 10 billion. The governor of the central bank, we had him on record as saying that that he was told by the public debt department to expect about offers in the range of about 1.5 billion. He after that he went to a meeting at the finance ministry in which he says he became privy to some information that the government is looking for urgent funds to fund some project between 15 and 20 billion. And so he says that the superintendent of the public debt department brought to his notice that they had received offers of around 20 billion. And then he says, and these are the magic words, he says, I instructed them to take up at least half, that means 10 billion, because at the back of my mind, I had in mind the information that he became privy to, that the government is seeking additional funds. So, you know, the operative word is I. I made the decision. And to me, with all these checks and balances and the autonomous nature of the central bank, the governor, in my understanding, isn't allowed to engage in a solo adventure, and it, as it turns out, a misadventure. How important is the word I as opposed to we?
Well, of course, in terms of proper economic policy governance for us, the word I doesn't stand there.
Right.
Because economic policy governance requires for anybody or any institution to make decisions in a consultative process.
Yes.
And when you do it in a consultative process, what happens is that you seek the views of diverse people.
Right.
So that you get the benefit of listening to the other side of the story.
Right.
And making a judgment, because remember, the people at the top of the central bank are not working for themselves.
Okay.
Oh, no are they working for their political masters.
They
are working for us.
The people.
People. Therefore, at whatever the decision that they make, at the heart, in their heart, who should remain is the people of the country. Because it is the nation which has created the central bank and not the politicians who have created the central bank.
Really?
So that is why this word "we" is important, because you get diverse views, you then blend them, and you come to the best decision for the benefit of the people of the country.
On that note, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the hot seat with Mr. W.A. Vijay Wadner, former Deputy Governor at the Central Bank, 38 years of experience, to tell us now, what are private placements?
Well, private placements, actually, calling it private placement is a misnomer for us. They are actually seeking money for the government of Sri Lanka by getting the individual primary dealers to invest in the thing. Because you don't place it with a given individual.
Right.
What happens is you offer it to the market.
So you offer it to the 16
all
dealers?
16 people, and anyone can, because only thing you give the amount and also the rate of interest.
So if they want to take it up?
If they can take it up. It's not a private placement. If you have enough money, you can do that. Private placement had been there, this particular mechanism had been there since 1998, ever since we had started the primary dealer system in the country.
So since 1998?
98. It's not a new deal.
98. So it's not something that Mr. Cabral started?
No. Actually, it happened, it started with Mr. S. Jayawardena.
I see.
In 1998. Why we wanted to have it for us is that even though we call it a market, the government securities market in Sri Lanka is not a market. It's an oligopoly run by 16 primary dealers.
Right.
So they can have any collusive activity and they can jack up the interest rates or jack up any other thing and for their own benefit. To prevent them from doing that, Central Bank has power on behalf of, again, the citizens of the country and the government of Sri Lanka to issue a particular amount in a particular auction at a particular rate of interest, and the balance money requirement of the government is generated for the treasury by offering them on tap. We call it on tap because the system is available, anybody can come and invest there.
Right. So there's no possibility that dealer 1 can be favoured over dealer
because the rate
2.
of interest is fixed by Central Bank.
By the Central Bank.
That rate of interest is the weighted average interest rate of the previous treasury bond issue or treasury bill issue.
So is it all politics when they say that private placements?
Of course, I think they may want to discredit some people without knowing that the practice had been there ever since from 1998. Probably the political leadership of the country would have been missing.
Right. Yes. I'm going to take you to something else. The US dollar is approximately 130 to the dollar, 130 sometime in January. It's hovering, it's gone up over 140, it's now hovering just under that, at about 139. Whose responsibility is it?
Well, of course, this is not a new development for us.
Yeah.
This is a continuation of the economic crisis the country had from year 2012. We were having a huge deficit in the trade, our balance of payment. What we had done is we had accumulated foreign reserves by borrowing from the rest of the world, and we were showing like Greece that we were having a hugely rosy economy in the country, which was not correct. Unfortunately for this government, for us, these people made the mistake of not making that particular information known to the members of the public. Number one. Number two, they did the worst thing. They actually certified the economic statistics published by them in the annual report for 2014. So as a result, now the present government cannot go and tell the public this thing has started in year 2012, because anyone can ask the question. I mean, your own annual report has certified it. How are you defining it? So because of that reason, we are under pressure, and probably the situation may be worse in the next 2 to 3 months' time. Because what I am telling you this now, Central Bank has now issued the statistics of the loan repayment within the next 12-month period.
Yes. How much is that?
$4.4 billion.
We have to pay that.
We have to pay, and our available free resource is about $5.5 billion.
So we are scratching the bottom.
Yeah, we don't have enough money. So naturally, unless we go for a massive bailout program with the International Monetary Fund, any other patchwork that we are doing, like getting a soft facility for the Reserve Bank of India, will not save Sri Lanka.
So an almost dire warning for what is to be financially expected for this country over the next 3 or 4 months.
Well, my warning is that immediately go for facility with the International Monetary Fund, so that it will actually build up confidence.
So our Foreign Minister of Finance needs to be going knocking at the IMF's door.
Well, of course, it's not actually knocking at FARA, because
We've got no other option.
No, Sri Lanka is a member of the IMF.
Right.
IMF is there for us to make use of the facilities whenever we are in trouble. It's not actually knocking at door.
So ask and you shall receive.
Yeah.
On that note, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for being in the hot seat, Mr. Ordner, and we look forward to welcoming you on our network again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.